some men will want you to audition and perform for them just so that they can give you the bare minimum in return. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones, and on a post where someone asked me to talk about 50-50 in dating, this woman, Gabby5410, asked, can you speak on how 50-50 is weaponized by men? Men are using it as a tactic to do less to get you to do more, is starting to get to a point where they're even doing less, and on the post goes. So I'm here to tell you that, I think whatever someone who is manipulative wants to use against you, they will, just to give you the bare minimum. It's something that's been going on since the end of time, where people just want to see what they can get. In many cases, especially in modern age dating, it's sex, it's money, it's whatever you can do for them. And so a person can only weaponize something against you if you were fearful of something. So a lot of times, I call it dangling the carrot in front of the donkey. Someone will weaponize, will hold the thread over not having a relationship, not entering into a commitment, and so on and so forth if you don't give 50-50. Again, I go back to my original post where I said, you have to go where your values are aligned. So if your values are not aligned with 50-50, what I would say is I wouldn't even listen to or even entertain that conversation. So a good example of this is like, if I've had like an acquaintance, like way back in my 20s, who invited me out on a date, and then we got to I think it was the movie theater or something like that, and he asked me out and wanted to go, and so I met him, and he gets to the ticket window. He gets to the ticket window and he says one ticket for whatever movie that we're going to see, meaning that he's only paying for himself and not my ticket. And so I got up and I turned around and walked right on up out of there, because if that's what we're doing, I could have stayed at home. And so I get very offended by stuff like that, like don't waste my time. And that hasn't happened since I was quite young. And again, it was something to where I never really even spoke to that person again, because it was considered, I considered it to be disrespectful and immature, frankly. And it is what it is. I don't mind. I don't care. It's no sweat off my back. It's not, one person doesn't align with me, another one will come along that does. And so you kind of have to look at it as like an abundance mindset. There's plenty of people out there that do align with you. I'm not going to argue with someone about 50-50 or them doing this and them doing that and wanting to score keep and so on and so forth, because that is an abuse tactic. When people are score keeping, if I do this, you have to do this, and I got to get this back and this and that. And, I don't really do that. And so those aren't conversations that I would recommend that anyone entertain on any level, whether you're aligned with 50-50 or not. When you have someone that expects something for something, it's not usually going to work out in your best interest, and at some point they're going to try to pull a ring and get more, which is also going to lead you to feeling way more resentful. Never be in a relationship where someone can sort of hold that over you. Money can be weaponized in a number of different ways. 50-50 is just one of the ways in which we're talking about weaponization of money and finances. And so I don't recommend it. If you're not aligned with that, I'm not, don't even entertain that conversation. That's someone he needs to probably talk about that with, that's more on his level financially, especially with the values. And it lets me know that, like, again, you have to go back to the way that courtship and dating were designed. whatever age you're at, because someone who's dating at 20, a woman that's dating at 20 and a woman that's dating at 45 are probably going to be dating for different reasons, right? Whereas a woman that's dating at 45, they're looking for more stability and things like that. And you may be looking for that at 20, but you also may be looking for, being down to have fun or whatever like that. And so it's, dating and courtship were designed for people who can afford to marry. So if you have someone that is talking about 50-50, and again, this is my value, so you do with yours what you will. If you have someone that's talking about marriage and things like that, if they're already sort of complaining about 50-50 during dating and trying to weaponize that against you, that tells you that they probably can't afford it, nor should they be doing it. Or they may want to be trying to spend their money on you and everyone else, right? And I think that's the problem that has occurred with online dating and social media especially. People think that there is a buffet, a sea of people out there, and there's an abundance at their fingertips. Well, that may be true, but can you really actually afford that lifestyle? Because a man should be courting every single woman, not wanting to be cheap, and again, these are my values. But you not wanting to be cheap and not wanting to nickel and dime and try to squeeze in every Tom, Dick, and Harry that he can date all within a number of days. So you find persons that you're serious about courting and you do that. But I think this conversation about 50-50, I think you've got to nix that in the bud. Any conversation about 50-50, giving a man money, letting a man borrow money, letting a man borrow stuff from you, I think that's something that women, you have to know your worth and you have to know your value, and you have to stop entertaining that, because that will be the death of any woman. It will lead to many years of unhappiness. It's fighting about stuff. You're nickel and diming. You're pulling more weight in the relationship. And it's not really aligned with you. So anything that's not really aligned with you, then suddenly become deaf, suddenly become mute. Don't entertain those conversations anymore. Don't listen to what they have to say anymore. It's just like, if a song on the radio is playing and you don't like it, you don't like that genre of music, what are you going to do? You're going to turn it off, or you're going to change the station. You're not going to really listen to it anymore. And this is kind of how that conversation goes. But you have to be disciplined about what you're doing, and how you're approaching people. You could still be, respectful about it, because someone also posted up here that like, some women pay their way on their first date because men start expecting something, or it starts getting physically dangerous if they don't. If that's the case, don't go out with them. Don't go out with people like that you have to question your safety with, and those kinds of things like that. That's already a no-no. So I hope that makes sense. And it's all about like screening and vetting people very properly, and not just settling for anything. It doesn't matter how attractive someone is. It doesn't matter, these conversations don't matter. It just matters like if and when your values are aligned. When you're out of alignment, it won't work. It may work for a little bit, for short term, but long term, it's never going to balance itself out. Hope that helps.